Shalom everybody, and welcome back to Insights in the Parsha of the Week, Parshat Matot-Masei. We see something very interesting again with the tzitz. The tzitz was the frontlet plate placed on the forehead of the Kohen Gadol, the high priest. It was connected like a crown. It had straps from the middle, from the back, all connecting to hold it in place, but it was sat like a crown over the underhead of the high priest, of the Kohen Gadol. And we pointed out that the tzitz really presents the concept of the Keter, discussed in the Kabbalah. Just first point, in a regular crown of a king, there's three sections. There's the lower rim that sits on the head of the king. There's the middle part that has all the jewels and diamonds, that's like most noticeable. And then there's what's called the spitzes, the kotzim, on the top of the crown, pointing upwards. The idea of pointing upwards, basically, it's honorable, but it's also to restore all honor to the King of Kings, Hashem. It's pointing upwards, okay? Kabbalistic also, the power of the Keter also has three sections. There's the lower point, that its relationship with the rest of the creation, this force called the Keter. The middle point, which is the middle functioning, the normal functioning of the Keter, which is to serve as a barrier between Hashem's infinite light and the rest of the world. And then there's the kotzim, the points of the crown, which are as if connecting and tapping into, being merged with Hashem's infinite light. And it's from there that is accessed all life and nourishment to the rest of the creation. That's the Kabbalistic explanation of the Keter. Rebbe Nachman explains that the Keter is basically, on a practical level, it refers to tapping into light, salvation, and help, which is truly beyond your reach. It's truly beyond your level, but is necessary in order to deal with the most craziest situations in life, where you say, only a miracle can help me. When people talk like that, only a miracle can help me, it's so bad. So basically, on a practical term, it means activating the Keter in order to bring in this light from a higher dimension. This is the idea of the tzitz. It's amazing when you say hatzitz, the tzitz. So you have a hey, which is 5. A tzaddik and a tzaddik, that's 90 plus 90, that's 180 plus the 5. And then the yud, that's another 10. So it's 180, 195. And plus 1 for the word itself, that's 196. Kotz, which is again is the term used in the Kabbalah for the top part of the Keter, also is 196. Kuf 100, Vav 6, and the Tzaddik 90, 196, to show its connection to the concept of the Keter. So with that in mind, we can understand in this week's Parsha, when Hashem commanded Moshe, send the Jews out to revenge what Midyan did. What Midyan did, in that they were the ones to bring down the Jewish people through immorality, through znut, leading to idolatry. So Hashem commanded Moshe they have to pay for what they did, causing so many Jews to die in the plague, which was due to the immorality. 24,000 Jews fell. Bilam, when he found out that his advice that he gave to Balak worked, because Bilam said, I can't attack the Jews with curses, so let me give you an advice, that their God hates immorality. If you make a breach of immorality in the Jewish people, that's how you'll be able to bring them down. So that's what Midyan did. Okay, Balak, he was really from Midyan. He was able to speak to Midyan. Midyan and Moab together, they wanted to destroy totally the Jewish people. So they were willing, both of them, to allow their daughters to be hefker, to be loose and free, and to be used for the sake of bringing the Jewish people to immorality. So because of that, Hashem says you need a nekama. We need a revenge to destroy and wipe out totally Midyan, which is what happened. Midyan was totally wiped out. Okay, so now Bilam, at the time that the Jewish soldiers were coming, Bilam was at the time collecting the funds, the money that he deserved for bringing down the Jewish people, getting 24,000 Jews to die. That was a big accomplishment. So he went to get his pay. And then on the way back from getting the pay, he sees the Jewish soldiers coming. So he laughed. He said, when you were much more, you couldn't bring them down. Now with 12,000, you want to bring down the enemies? It didn't work. So in the end, really the Jews destroyed Midyan. And it says in the Parsha that Bilam, with witchcraft, because he was a master sorcery of black magic. He learned all the secrets to such a depth that it was really scary to deal with him. And he was young, but he learned the secret arts of black magic from certain demons trapped in Asia, Eastern Asia, and that's where he learned all his techniques. So they were flying in the air. He was flying with also 5 of the ministers or kings, whatever you want to call them, from the tribe of Midyan, from the country of Midyan, the nation of Midyan. And Pinchas, who was sent by Moshe Rabbeinu to go as representation of the priest for battle, that's what's called Mashuach Milchama. So he had with him the ark, the holy ark, and the tzitz. The high priest wasn't there, Elazar wasn't there, but he had Pinchas, the actual tzitz. So what did he do? Rashi explains, is that when the Jewish soldiers were fighting Midyan, and you see these 5 sorcerers with Bilam flying in the air to cause damage. So what did Pinchas do? He waved at them. He brought out and exposed to them the tzitz, which had on it Hashem's 4-letter name, Yud Ke Vav Ke, and just seeing it brought them down. Okay, that's the first incident of the tzitz in this week's parsha. Second incident is when the Jews wiped out all the men from Midyan. Okay, and they brought back women. So Moshe was a bit upset. He says, these are the women that caused the damage, and you bring them back? So it was ordered to kill all the women who had relations, to kill them all, because every woman was into the plan to bring down the Jews. Even married women, okay? More than this, even young girls from the age of 3 and up were all submitted to bring the Jewish people down, okay? Not all of them were used, but they were ready and willing to have them all used for this tactic. Because of that, they all had to be destroyed and killed. Okay? So now the question was, how do you determine a young girl if she had relations or not? Or more than that, if she's over the age of 3 or under the age of 3, because she can be lying. So they passed all the girls in front of the tzitz again, and any girl who was above the age of 3, her face turned morik, turned a bit pale and a bit greenish. And that was the indication that these girls are above the age of 3 and they have to be destroyed. What was left were the little girls under the age of 3. All the men and even the boys were killed because they were all that bad. It's just to show you how bad these people were. And the solution is, there's no hope. There's certain people that they're so bad, they're so evil, they become evil incarnate and there's no hope. Midyan has in it midin, judgment, difficulty. There's some people who are so bad that there's no even holy spark keeping them alive. They have to be destroyed. They're just total evil. There's no like, okay, maybe they can be rectified. It's like Amalek. Amalek, it says, the Zohar says, that Balak and Bilam together, tag team, activated the power of Amalek. How so? Balak, his last 2 letters of his name are Lamed and Kuf. Bilam, his last 2 letters of his name are Ayin Mem. Balak said to Bilam, you have Ayin Mem, I have Lamed Kuf, it spells out Amalek. But together we can activate the power of Amalek, which Hashem himself says, blot out. Blot out. Mechet Amalek, there's no good here. There's nothing good at all. Okay? Yes, Hashem allows in his creation there to be something which has no good trace whatsoever and has to be destroyed. The free will choice is, do you keep it alive or not? Oh, maybe have some compassion, or no, this is bad, that has to be destroyed. Hashem says that you won't find any good in this, okay? I'm telling you, Hashem says, you won't try to have compassion in the wrong area, you're going to lose out. You're going to lose out, okay? So that's the case with Balak and Bilam and Midyan. Fine. So now, let's just go into the idea. Why the tzitz? Why the tzitz used to bring down these sorcerers? And why the tzitz to identify which girls are over the age of 3, because that's something you can't really figure it out. You don't know their age, it could be lying, etc. And one is sorcery, and it was really dangerous. The Zohar says the whole incident, how it was so scary with these sorcerers flying in the air, and they had black magic at a high degree. So the Jews saw that they need a superpower above their level to subdue that. That was the idea of the tzitz. The tzitz idea of the Keter comes to activate the Keter, which is needed to come in a person's need when he's dealing with a situation which is beyond his reach, beyond his means, beyond his level. I need a miracle, like we said. So that's what the tzitz is for. So the tzitz brought down these sorcerers, even though they were up, and there's always a rule that even if a weak person is above, he has a vantage point over the one below. So, they were above, flying in the air, plus there were sorcerers. So the Jews were a bit worried. So Pinchas said, Moshe Rabbeinu told the Jews, it's in the Midrash, I know they're going to attack with sorcery. Take the tzitz. The tzitz is so powerful that it can bring them down. Because the tzitz is the idea of activating the concept of the keter, like we said, it's a gematria of the kutz. And that taps into the infinite light, which is needed to subdue such evil like as this. Okay? That's number one. And number two, with the sexual immorality, danger, and damage of Midyan, that they're the ones who opened immorality to the rest of the world. If you see a crazy world today, where there's such high levels of immorality, guess what? It started with Midyan. They're the ones who introduced it due to the advice, the evil advice of Bilam, because even back then, from the time of the flood, even the nations knew to work on sexual purity to a degree. They had morals of not being frivolity and all types of blemishes in that area. And Bilam was the one who opened the door to bring down the Jews. And once the door was open, it's now left, like, not temporarily, but now forever, and it spread throughout all societies and all mankind. That's how bad it was, what Midyan did. So it was needed to destroy even the young girls. But now how do you figure it out? From the age of 3, little girl under 3, she's innocent to a degree. She's like a little non-Jew who can technically convert. And there's a whole discussion in the Gemara, by the way, in Yevamot, page 60, about receiving converts from under the age of 3. Can they marry a Kohen Gadol? Can they enter the Jewish people? It's a whole discussion there. You can see on 60a, 60b of Yevamot. Fine. So here, though, over the age of 3, they needed this to be done. And it was something they can't do on their own. So comes along the power of the tzitz again, in order to identify where the right is and what the wrong is. The message here also is very powerful, that sometimes you're faced with major frustrations in life and you just don't know what's right and what's wrong. You don't know what to do. And you really don't know. There's a frustration. So these cases require tapping into a higher level. That's the idea of the tzitz. That a Jew activates the tzitz in his life is activating the keter, which means accessing a light which is way above my level, but needed to gain clarity of what's right and what's wrong. And to conclude, the idea of tzitz, it means also to take a peek. Betzitz min acharakim. That a Jew who takes a peek, who's looking for holiness, looking for Hashem, and because he's like, he can't see clearly, it's only like taking a peek from the crack. It's meant to induce a Jew's yearning and desire to come close to Hashem. So the secret, Rebbe Nachman teaches, to activating the tzitz, the keter, is the yearning. When a Jew has strong yearning, this is the strongest power in the world, which activates the light of the keter, which is also called tzach-tzachot. Tzach-tzachot, the Zohar explains, is from the language of someone who's parched, thirsty. Spiritually, the person is yearning and desire and cleaving to come close to Hashem, pining to come close to Hashem, all due to a spiritual thirst of having something taken away from him or something refrained, like the idea of someone taking a peek in a little crack, but he wants more, he wants to come close. This is the idea of activating the keter. We should be zoche to have the tzitz in our life, even today, with no Beit HaMikdash, no high priest, no tzitz, but we have the spiritual element of the tzitz today, which is activating the light of the keter through our yearning Bezrat Hashem. Shabbat Shalom.